So do you guys want to stay in Iowa, or is there anything like, I got to go to Atlanta, or I got to go
They got to go to the road. They're good. They're talented. They're all musicians, and they're good at what they do. They're the best. I know their talent. I know they're good, but they got to get out of here. They got to come out of Iowa. They can't be famous. You can't be famous here. There's a couple of people. T-Boss came out of here. A couple people out of Waterloo. Slipknot came out of here.
Do you guys like Slipknot?
Oh, no.
Have you ever seen it? It's the craziest metal band.
They came out of West.
They the best rock band out here.
They wear crazy masks and they're like heavy metal. What do you think about? They look like this.
Oh, that's that get off the drugs music. That's it. That's that snort a line of coke music.
Okay, right now, it's March 15th, which I believe is referred to as the Ides of March.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Isn't that March 15th, the Ides? It's Ides Day.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm not too up on Roman history, but...
that's some Caesar stuff.
Yeah, something about that.
He was supposed to be afraid of March 15th for some reason. Right, wasn't it Beware the Ides of March?
I think, wasn't that the date of his assassination?
Oh, so did you know it was going to happen? Or was this like a prophecy or something?
I don't know why, man.
I don't know why I brought this up immediately.
Yeah.
I just looked down at the date and I was like, oh yeah, that's Ides, right? But the episode's not even going to be out until the 16th, so this is old news for everyone listening. They don't care about the Ides of March.
Yeah, what about fucking St. Patrick's Day? That's a holiday.
Actually, what day is that?
You get drunk? It's on Monday, the 17th,
is that this Monday?
I believe.
Oh, wow.
I believe so, yeah.
Okay.
See, that's a real fucking holiday.
Do you have any big holiday plans for St. Patrick's Day?
No. I'm joking. Yeah. I don't participate in that, even though I do have a lot of Irish heritage.
Yeah, I think I have some. I'm going to be grading a lot of homework on Monday.
Yeah,
big holiday
I'm going to be
plans.
Going to work on Monday.
Maybe I'll get drunk for the first time in my life to celebrate St. Patrick's Day while I do my work from home.
I've been abstaining from alcohol, but for you, if you want to get drunk together, like open invitation. If you ever want to get turned up, then hit me up.
How long have you been abstaining?
Probably since the New Year at least, but it's not like a New Year's resolution or anything. It's just like,
just don't feel like it.
Don't really have, I've been doing kava instead, which is like Polynesian liquor, basically. No, it's
okay.
It's more like plant root water.
Kava, anyway. Is that supposed to be like an energy thing?
No, it's kind of the opposite.
What am I thinking of?
It's like it's very subtle. It's not like, I don't know. I guess, I don't know. You could probably get trashed on it if you wanted, but it's just kind of like a mild sedative. People use it socially in like the Polynesian Islands. It's much better for you than alcohol.
I'm thinking
there's kava bars in a lot of cities. There's one in Des Moines. Never been there, but
there's kava drinks, right? I think I've seen these.
Yeah. I think you can. Yeah, it's like totally legal.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, pretty much whenever like other people have been drinking around me, I'm like, I'll just have a kava.
This is the 190th episode of Rock Hard Caucus, by the way. Iowa's most important source of journalism. You get all your news here, and you can get all your opinions here too. Everything that we say on the show, we're sharing our own personal opinions, but they should be your opinions too. So if you hear anything that you disagree with, well, it's time to change. 190th episode. So I'm going to call the next 10 episodes our countdown to 200. This is sort of it's a very important stretch of episodes. When you get close to 200, that's where the podcast sort of matures.
Yeah, I bet. That's what we've been doing this entire time, is we've been maturing.
Getting better in our analysis, crafting our opinions more and more precisely. And you can, if you've been listening from the beginning, you've heard us get smarter and smarter.
Probably get more and more cynical as we went from the like good things might happen in this country to the possibility of any good things has been completely foreclosed, and now we all have to suffer, but continue podcasting anyway.
Well, yeah, I don't know that it's been foreclosed. It's just that the avenues are getting more outside of the existing structures that were built.
Yeah, I forgot about revolutionary optimism and how that's.
Don't forget, it's gonna happen.
That's not what revolutionary optimism is about. It's just the optimism of the spirit. It's the pessimism of the...
Right.
What is it? Pessimism of the conditions, optimism of the spirit or something? I don't know.
Something like that. Optimism of the will, I think, is a phrase I've come across before. Like you have the intellectual understanding that things may not turn around before you are in the ground, but... you still have sort of a duty to do what you can to push things in the right direction.
Yeah.
That general idea. I think we're all pretty familiar with that, given the dire circumstances of our adult lives.
If you can imagine, a better future, if you have any sort of like utopian inkling, then just don't let that die out, I guess.
Yeah. Okay, let's start with a big piece of news very close to the show, the people who make the show and who like the show, our circle. We brought this up on recent episodes. Dan Cobble, Iowa City rabble rouser, and I use that term as a positive. This is not a derogatory term, rabble rouser. He was sentenced this week for a crime that he pled guilty to. And I was there for the sentencing hearing, as were, several of our friends. And I would like to talk about that a little bit. But before we do talk about it, I want Evan and I to be able to speak freely, but I also want to make it clear for legal purposes that this is just us talking. This is just me and Evan. Nobody else has any input into what we're about to talk about. Especially not Dan Cobble. Dan he's our friend, but he has nothing to do with this conversation, and he didn't tell us what to say. I have not discussed any of these things with him to clear it with him or anything like that. We're just chatting here. And that's important because he has a no contact order that's been extended for the next 5 years. So I don't want to trip up and, implicate him in anything. Just on the off chance that there's, I don't want to cause any more trouble for anyone involved.
Right.
So what Dan pled guilty to was a charge of witness tampering. The witness being University of Iowa police detective Ian Mallory, whose name, of course, has come up many, many times on this podcast, and who may be listening now. Hello, Ian. It was just over a year ago that he testified in court that he listens to this podcast, both as an investigative resource and on a personal level. He listens to the podcast, or he did at that point. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's listening now. Hello, Ian. Let's use this Gazette report to kind of jog my memory. I was not attending the sentencing as a member of the media this time around, so I did not record anything. I wasn't taking notes in the courtroom.
No lanyard.
Didn't have my lanyard on. No, I was just there to be a supportive friend. But Trish Mahaffey of the Cedar Rapids Gazette was there as a reporter, of course. She reports on a lot of these proceedings. And so her piece from Thursday evening. Oh, and I see it's been updated. It was updated on Friday afternoon.
Hey, better than I heard a rumor that Althea Cole was going to be there. So if we're going to have anyone from the Gazette reporting on this, better to be the veteran crime reporter instead of the conservative fucking
opinion
crank
columnist. Yes. Yeah. Althea was not there. I suspected she might because I thought she might be interested in this because
she's very scared of any sort of marbles, any sort of she's very invested in what like left-wing people might be doing in eastern Iowa,
especially as it regards trans rights, because she is I mean, she's explicitly against trans rights at this point. She's published multiple pieces where she says it's
that's like her animating thing. Like, I mean, yeah, not just her, but yeah, that's if you look at her Twitter, that's a lot of what she's talking about.
Yeah. Okay. And though the prosecution and the victim of this crime wants to push the focus away from that, I do think that protesting the erosion of trans rights and the, prevention of expansion of trans rights, however you want to frame it, I do think that is central to what happened here.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, headline from Trish Mahaffey at the Gazette is UI police detective tells Iowa City man to, quote, leave my family alone after harassment. So that's the main thing she chose to put out there as the headline, or maybe her editor. I don't know how these decisions are really made. And that she's pulling from the victim impact statement, which is at sentencing hearings. I think that's kind of a standard thing, is that victim or victims have an opportunity to read a statement to the court. And Ian took that opportunity. It was several pages long. And I would characterize his victim impact statement as a performance. And this is all speculation on my part. I don't know the man on a personal level. I couldn't possibly have seen the impact that any of these tweets had on him in his life. But I don't think that they really affected him that much. I'm sure that he was upset and irritated that some guy in the community was posting a bunch of mean shit about him. But he said in his victim impact statement that he had nightmares about Dan Cobble showing up to his house and burning his house down while he and his, quote, family were asleep. He said that to the court. Well, look, I'm not saying that didn't happen. It's totally possible that you could have a nightmare like that. Especially if somebody's tweeting about you a lot and occupying your thoughts. It's possible, right? But I've had dreams about a lot of things. I've had dreams about a golem chasing me around my grandmother's basement. I've had dreams that my family cat turned into a blanket. I've had dreams about... this is kind of a recurring thing. I have a dream where I can't find a toilet. Do you ever have that dream?
No, I don't have those dreams, but I definitely have dreams where, like, I'm in a Kafkaesque version of, like, a school campus, either college or high school, and I don't know what class I need to get to, and I'm just, wandering around, sometimes naked, sometimes not. Anyway, our subconsciouses are very irrational, and what springs forth from them isn't necessarily grounded in any real thing, I
don't know that it should have too much sway when it comes to, like, sentencing somebody for a crime.
Right.
Like these dreams that we have about our school and not being able to find the classroom, like who do we take action against? Like the architects of the school for making it too confusing in our subconscious to find the right room. It's not reasonable. Okay, so the thing that is very interesting about the headline, especially, leave my family alone. And you know what? Let me play this for you because I kind of cheekily pointed out that the article has been updated. Right now, if you look at the article, the first paragraph is, a University of Iowa police detective said an Iowa City man created a social media profile of him using personal information, including his spouse's name, and used, quote, hateful, discriminating language that he would never use. In other words, a parody account of Ian Mallory was made on Twitter. Now, originally, there was a different opening paragraph to this article, and I don't have I haven't been home a lot the last few days. I didn't have a chance to archive this on archive.org to get the original version of this. But you know how sometimes at the top of a news article there's like an audio thing and it'll like read it out loud to you, like an accessibility thing, I guess.
Yeah.
That still has the original text. So let me play the beginning of that for you and see if you notice any changes.
UI police detective tells Iowa City man to leave my family alone after harassment. By Trish Mahaffey, Iowa City. A University of Iowa police detective said an Iowa City man created a social media profile of him using personal information, including his spouse's name and children, and used hateful, discriminating language that he would never use.
Did you catch it? Did you catch what was different? What was
His
in there?
children.
His children. His children. Now, I can't prove this. You know, I don't, like I said, don't know him on a personal level. I don't have all the details of his family and all that shit. I'm not going to dig into that. I don't believe that he has children. I don't think he does. All right? And this was kind of an interesting part of the performance, the victim impact statement. At least a couple of times he referred to his children, right? And I don't think he has any. And then a little bit later in his victim impact statement, he was referring to a vacation he took a few months ago. And he and his wife had a dog sitter, okay, to take care of his dogs while he was, away. And I don't know if this was a slip up or if he intended to say this, but he said that the dog sitter was there to care for his children dogs. Children dogs.
They're puppies, so they're puppies.
Sure. And
that's what a child dog is. Yeah.
I also consider pets to be part of the family. I care a lot about my cats. I don't personally refer to them as my children, but some people do that.
You don't call them your fur babies or anything?
No.
He should have pulled that out.
I was making an effort to be just, totally stoic.
As usual.
I don't want to disrupt things. I don't want to be like I don't want to make anything, worse for anyone. I need to just sit and observe, right? If he had said fur babies, I would have had to leave the room. So, again, this is speculation, but if you were just saying the word children in your victim impact statement, I think most people would hear that and be picturing human children.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you'd think that. You would.
Now, I don't think that Dan ever made any sort of threats or said anything weird about his dogs. Like, I don't think he would do that. Dan has a dog that he cares a lot about, I think he cares about dogs. I don't think he's making threatening posts about dogs.
The dogs did nothing wrong.
But, even if he had, I do think that there's a difference between, referring to somebody's human children versus saying something about their dogs,
Mm-hmm.
Like both could make you uncomfortable, but I do think that involving somebody's human children in whatever sort of like conflict is going on, like that's a line that most people feel is you don't cross, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is what Ian was trying to put in people's minds as he read that statement, is that this guy went after my children who don't exist. Like, that's not fair to do.
Right.
You can't pretend you have kids. All right, let me read a little bit more of this. Yes. All of the thoughts and comments are from the, quote, mind and soul of Dan Cauble, Detective Ian Mallory said in his victim impact statement. The point of this being that this parody account that was posing as Ian was saying offensive things, the intent, I believe, being to speak frankly about how Ian's potential biases may be influencing the way he's doing his job.
Right.
The evidence of that being that the high profile cases he was involved with last year before that, everybody who was charged with crimes seemed to fit a certain demographic. That's the thing that a lot of people have noticed.
Right.
About these high profile cases that Ian is involved with, is that a lot of trans people are being charged with crimes because of cases that this detective is building. Mm-hmm. This is not a trend that Dan Cauble invented. This is something that a lot of people noticed and have talked about. And this is not the fault of any one person, except for maybe maybe the detective, right? So his point being that these offensive things that this account was saying, not things that coming from me. This is Dan's brain making all these offensive statements. But it's hyperbole, it's parody. That's the sort of comedic intent and
I think, even outside of that particular case, like Ian Mallory has been in the news a lot. Like there is like a couple other cases that he was involved in. That there was like a laudatory Gazette article about him using DNA to solve some, decades old cold case or something. Like it's like
who wrote that?
I think it was Trish Mahaffey. I'm going to say it was Trish Mahaffey. It was Trish Mahaffey.
Oh, interesting. Same reporter who wrote about the sentencing hearing.
Yeah. So he's not a celebrity, but he is a known figure in the Eastern Iowa community.
Right. Yes, there. We talked about it on this podcast when the story initially came out about that decades-long identity theft thing. Mm-hmm. It was like a university healthcare IT guy.
Oh yeah, that was another case. Yeah,
we're talking about two different things.
Yeah, I think there was two different cases.
Because DNA evidence was involved with that.
It was the same one. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But either way, yeah.
But yeah, that initial report was like a year ago, and we talked about it on this show, and I think it was April of last year. And this week the university put out another PR thing about that, about this star detective who solved this decades old crime. The crime being an identity theft from decades ago. Look, I don't think the university should be pushing this so hard, because the main crux of the story is that they employed a con man for decades.
Yeah.
in a position of pretty big importance with access to a lot of people's personal information. Yeah. I think it's kind of it doesn't reflect well on them that this guy got away with this for so long. But you're right. Point being, his name is out there. He is in many respects a public figure. Mm-hmm. So, there's some additional leeway when talking about a public figure and making a parody account of a known person, right? Especially here, for now, in the United States, we have some speech protections in situations like that. Yeah, and that's another part of the victim impact statement. He sort of refutes the idea that he's fair game, he said, I'm not an elected official. He said that I'm a police officer. I'm a state employee who makes an hourly wage. It was something like that. I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, sort of just, refuting the idea that he can't be slandered, which is kind of the standard for public figures, is you're sort of allowed to say whatever you want about them. There's limitations on that, I'm sure, but the standard for proving slander and libel against a senator is different.
Pretty high bar, yeah.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And I'd entertain arguments that Ian Mallory is not it's not talking shit about the president, obviously.
Yeah.
Okay, another kind of major thing about his impact statement, which most of the public has not heard and is only selectively quoted here in media reports. I don't think I mentioned this on mic, but I'm attempting to get an audio recording of that. I don't know if the court was actually recording or not. The clerk's office didn't seem to know when I asked them on Thursday, but my form has been submitted. I'm going to try to get audio so that we can, not be just relying on everybody's memories and notes. Anyway, he was framing a lot of, the evidence in the case is about, I think the Daily Iowan article lists the handle at Ian Mallory for Iowa and at Ian Mallory memes were the two Twitter handles that were part of the evidence in the case. Because initially Dan was being charged with identity theft and harassment in addition to the witness tampering. And identity theft, that only that only was like plausible because, the account was made with the name Ian Mallory, right? And the Daily Iowan articles by Emma Jane, it's called Iowa City Man Sentenced for Police Parody Account, also came out on Thursday. But there's another Twitter account that had some local following that was not referred to directly by Ian Mallory, but some of the posts that were made on that account were obliquely referenced in the victim impact statement. That would be Bucky Stockwell. Now, Bucky Stockwell is a character. That's a entirely fictional character, not a parody of any like real person. This is a fictional character, and the posts made on that account, the Bucky Stockwell account, are, I guess, what I might call realistic fiction.
Yeah, well, I might say that they're very silly and very clearly intended to be humorous in nature.
I say realistic fiction because like sometimes real people's names come up is all.
Yeah, true. And there are people like Bucky Stockwell out there in real life who are not doing it, ironically. So, and it's realistic in that aspect as well. Sure.
Yeah. But it's a comedic character, like you're saying. It's a guy who lives on a compound and has a lot of, strong opinions about. It's sort of like an old man crank libertarian type of character. And he's sort of like a cult leader in some ways. Like I said, he lives on a compound. He's at times like there's tweets about like having a harem kind of situation. But, Dan was the one posting. This is, his phone was seized. So the authorities know which accounts Dan was posting on. And some of the fictional tweets by this fictional character did refer to the University of Iowa police detective and his wife. And, it's fictional. You can be upset that you're the subject of these like somewhat racy, inflammatory, fictional stories, but it's basically fan fiction. And Ian was often movie references. like I think Dan would be like watching a movie, see a plot element in a movie and get an idea for a stupid tweet. Like, I think that's as simple as it is. And in his victim impact statement, Ian is talking about this like he's having death threats made against him because there's a storyline in a Bucky Stockwell tweet about like Bucky having an affair with a detective's wife. It's like, you have a right to not like it and be upset that you're like a subject of ridicule, but this isn't real, and you can't present it to the public as if this is real.
I mean, I don't think any reasonable person would look at that Twitter account and be like, oh yeah, these are like actionable. Well, first off, he's not like making threats. It's just like presenting like moments in the life of this fictional character or whatever. No one's going to confuse that for anything like in real life. It's a fucking joke account. It's goofing off. Yeah. And to be fair, I don't have a record of all these tweets. The account's deleted. I'm sure Ian has screen caps of everything. Like, I think, I guess actually I don't know if Bucky tweets are part of the evidence in the case, which is part of what makes it kind of like an issue that they featured heavily in the victim impact statement. Like, this wasn't the case, but so, I don't know how far he went. Like, I don't really have a moral objection to Dan's activities. Like, I understand the impulse and the motivation for what he did. Like, he pulled a lot of publicly accessible information about this individual, Ian Mallory, right? And I do think he probably posted some of the things he posted to make this man uncomfortable, right? And that is basically how Ian does his job, is to find as much publicly accessible information about, these people he wants to bring charges against, relevant or not, to the quote criminal activities that they participated in. And what's the end result
of the way that Ian does this and the way that Dan did it. Like, the consequences of Dan's activities are one guy is annoyed and then Dan faces legal consequences. Mm-hmm. The result of Ian's activities is nothing ever happens to Ian, and he gets people put in jail and, huge legal costs to them for what I would say are legal exercises of their First Amendment rights.
First Amendment protected expressions.
Yeah. Protesting big speaking events in the town they live in, where the primary focus of the speech is you should not have civil rights. Like, the way that you are does not fit my vision of a strict gender binary, and so you should not have rights and your life should be miserable. Like, I think it's fair to protest things like that. And I think that, given that their civil rights are being stripped away very explicitly by the state now, obviously they were right to protest those events. Mm-hmm. So I think that, there's some element of give this guy a taste of his own medicine.
Right.
I think that was some of the intent. And I don't think Ian gets it.
Right. Well, he was asking for 30 days in jail over this.
He did. In his victim impact statement, he asked for jail time, yes.
Which is a lot. I mean, like, that, most people are not going to, like, maintain employment after serving 30 days in jail. You can't drop out of your life. It's a big disruption to your life, as usual, and can have consequences far beyond the actual time spent in jail.
Mm-hmm. And that's, seeing all of these disruptions in people's lives who do not deserve to have their lives disrupted in this way, seeing that happen over and over again, can lead to a feeling of frustration and helplessness with the oppressive system that we're living under. And you may find yourself thinking, well, what can I do to this guy to, like, make his life a little bit worse because of what he's doing to people in this community?
Yeah.
So that's, I think, where some of those posts probably came from. And, Ian has not really, the local Democratic Party was not willing to censure the county attorney over bringing a lot of these charges against trans protesters to court. Nobody with the power to actually do something about this cares enough to do anything. So, I understand why somebody might get a little bit reckless and, maybe start crossing into less legal types of posting in their frustration. But at the end of the day, it's fucking posts. Mm-hmm. Like, oh yeah, also, Dan found Ian's Venmo and sent him a request for money. Like, again, I don't have a moral objection to this. I do think that was a reckless thing to do. I think that, look, everybody needs to be a little more careful.
Right.
If you're going to do things like this, there can be consequences for yourself.
Venmo accounts might as well be public with the way they just blast people's information out there. Like, you've seen like the screenshots of people like requesting drugs or, money for drugs and like it's all on their public profile.
Matt Gaetz and his
Matt Gaetz
solicitation of underage sex workers.
Yeah.
But Ian presented this as if this was like the most egregious violation of his privacy to find him on Venmo, which is very easy to do. Like, you can just search someone's name and, well, in my case, when I search people's names, I find like 1,000 other profiles of that person's name before I get the one that I want.
Right.
But that's just another, piece of evidence that, like, it's easy to find everybody on Venmo. They're all there. It's all there. Just search. There they all are. And then send them a request for payment. He presented this as if this was like a mind-blowing criminal offense. And it's like not a big deal. Like you can block his account immediately. Like, it's clearly just like a bit.
It's also like a joke thing. Like, I've gotten so many like requests for like thousands of dollars from my friends, like just as like a joke, like inside jokes. Like,
Chuck has done that to us on Facebook Messenger.
Yeah. And I've never sent him a dime.
You can
because it was a
request
joke.
money through Facebook Messenger. I don't really understand how that even works. Who has sent money through that?
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh yeah, here. This is in the Gazette article. At some point, Cobble also sent Mallory a Venmo request for $1,500, stating it was for Cobble's legal and emotional distress. Mallory said Cobble was obsessed with him and was stalking him. Mallory had to tell his neighbors about Cobble so they would be aware and no harm would come to his family or others. None of this ever entered into like real 3-dimensional space, you know, like this was all on the internet.
How do you explain that to your neighbors? There's a guy.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'd just be like, okay, man, sounds good. I'll look out for Bucky Stockwell.
Okay, so one more thing I kind of want to say about this is that the charge that stuck was witness tampering. Because like the rationale here is that this all occurred because Ian was a witness at the Marbles trial last year. So, you know, if you paint all of Dan's activities as retaliation for that, you can get a witness tampering charge to stick, I guess. And I just kind of want to argue against that. Like, Ian, we all knew who you were before you made an appearance at the Marbles trial. Like, this was already an ongoing conflict before that trial. Dan's known who you are for years and has reasons to dislike you because of your job and the way you do your job. It's not that you gave witness testimony at a trial that all this happened. It's because you target like vulnerable communities to charge them with bullshit crimes to make their lives worse. You're doing the bidding of a fascist state, and people don't like you for that.
Yeah. And are some like questionable posts from a parody account really going to discourage you from testifying? Like, are you going to change your testimony because some guy was like making fun of you on the internet? Like, come on, man. That's not happening.
Another quote from the Gazette. Cobble caused people not to want to testify in the justice system, Mallory said. No evidence of that presented. Obviously, a victim impact statement isn't like, you know, an actual testimony or like presentation of evidence, but if they could find one person who could say that they were intimidated by Dan Cobble's tweets into not testifying at a trial, I think they would have.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, and so the final result of this, you know, for now, the sentence was, you know, they were trying to get a deferred judgment, and the state prosecutor did not oppose that, didn't really say anything.
Like, no prior record, like, first offense, fucking parody account. Like, seems like a pretty deferred judgment situation.
Prosecution didn't argue against anything like that. The judge, Brandon Schrock, instead, he said the deferred judgment was not appropriate because this is like an ongoing thing. Like, I think what he said is like, this was not like a one-time crossing the line. It was like an ongoing, you know, thing between these two people. He sentenced Cobble to 180 days. That's a prison sentence of like 6 months. But suspended it and gave him 2 years probation. Yeah, the judge literally said, I want you to have a prison sentence hanging over your head.
Right.
And that will make you think twice before engaging in activities like this again.
Which a deferred judgment would do the exact same thing. I mean, the deferred judgment is you have a term of probation. After you complete the term of probation successfully, charges get dropped. Doesn't appear on your permanent record. Like, it's still, like, you're still being, you're under probation. I mean,
it's not getting
like
off scot-free. Yeah.
Yeah, right. It's like there's still a pretty strong deterrent to further whatever activity. I'm not going to say criminal activity, but whatever activity.
You will never tweet about Ian Mallory again.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, if you're listening to this, you're a friend of Dan, please, you know, encourage him to stay off of social media as much as possible. Like, I don't think this is fair, but I do think that it's in everyone's best interest for him to stay out of prison.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
Yeah. So, I know that, podcasts, a lot of people who listen to podcasts are also very online types of people. And I would advise against poking the bear too much. Like, it's not fair, but especially with Twitter. I mean, if you do anything even remotely that could be painted as like a crime on Twitter, you're fucked. Like, they will turn over anything they have on you to any police department, probably worldwide.
I'm just going to say you shouldn't be on that website at all. I mean, it's fine if you are. Like, I don't think it's that huge of a deal, but like, I don't know. The benefits are greatly diminishing every day.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. This was not like an effective protest, really. I don't think, but I do think a lot of people, it probably did raise awareness of Ian Mallory a little bit, but people were already aware of him and the job he's doing, and disliked him for it. This was not, fully the responsibility of a parody account.
Right.
But, I don't think that the consequences justify, anything that happened,
Right. Yeah. Keep it to the group chats. Get your catharsis in the group chats. Get it all out of your system among your friends.
Not a Twitter group chat, though.
Not necessarily.
Expect that to leak.
Expect that to leak. I mean, group chats are notoriously leaky. But anyway,
Yeah.
probably not, great to do it in public necessarily.
Yeah. I don't think it was worth it. Just be careful, VPNs exist. I don't know. I don't encourage anything like this. I don't think it was worth the hassle for anyone, but you got to protect yourself if you're going to criticize police, basically, because another aspect of this is worth repeating. In the discovery for terrorist trial and the I forget what they call it, but where they like interview witnesses before the trial, deposition.
Right.
It was revealed or confirmed that the reason that Ian was able to identify Tara at the Chloe Cole protest was because Ian had been monitoring Tara's social media for 2 to 3 years leading up to that protest. Not because Tara had committed any crime, but because Tara, and I will say Dan Cobble was also involved in this, was speaking out at county meetings against the county sheriff obtaining a Bearcat armored vehicle. An entirely legal thing to do.
Right.
We are allowed to, speak to our government officials and talk about how we don't want our local police departments to have, the resources to kill us on a mass scale. We're allowed to do that. And, technically, he's probably allowed to monitor somebody who does appear at a public meeting like that. But it's not good. So, yeah, if you're going to be out and outspoken against the state and the state's police forces, try to take some effort to protect yourself. It's hard.
Yeah.
With that said...
Unfortunate.
I kind of expected I would have a lot to say about that. I didn't realize that we were going to take up like 45 minutes with that. Especially since I didn't take any notes, so I figured I would forget a lot. But yeah, I guess it stuck around. There was one sort of like tangential thing I wanted to mention. This is a story from about a week ago that appeared on the KCJJ website, local radio station that I have been critical of in the past. This is just a story about another case that came before this same judge, Johnson County's Brandon Schrock, the judge who sentenced Dan to 180 days suspended and 2 years probation. He granted a deferred judgment just last week to 34-year-old Michael Wheeler 34 years old, because and he was being charged with a crime because he had been communicating with someone he believed to be under the age of 16 and asked this person to meet him for sex acts, is what this says here. So Wheeler allegedly sent the other party a picture of his erect penis and described what he would do to the person he believed to be 16 years old. 34 years old.
Believed to be under the age of 16.
Under. You're right. You're right. Yes. Thank you for clarifying. So he was charged with enticing a minor under 16 for sexual purposes. This is a Class D felony, punishable by a prison term of up to 5 years if convicted. And online records show Wheeler was given a deferred judgment by Judge Brandon Schrock on February 28th. So this is the kind of thing that Brandon Schrock believes is worthy of deferred judgment, is a man well into adulthood sending pictures of his penis to kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's very fucking interesting. Very fucking interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, to be fair, though, Wheeler is going to get 3 years of probation. So,
oh, my God.
Yeah, and he'll be on the sex offender registry for the next 10 years. So it's not like he gets away with it entirely, you know. But, that's kind of like an on par punishment. You know, like roughly the same as what Dan got for tweeting.
Right. What's a bigger threat to public safety, right?
Just an interesting contrast. I would speculate that part of the difference is that the victim of one of these is a member of law enforcement, and so gets maybe preferential treatment by the justice system.
That's an interesting thought as well.
Okay, this is not local, but it just made me smile when I listened to it yesterday. Do you know who Senator Tom Tillis is, Evan?
I do not.
He's the senator from North Carolina. He's been in that position for about 10 years. I didn't know much about him either, but he's a kind of a standard Republican. I think, prior to the past year or so, he would have probably been called in some circles like a moderate. Like he voted for, what do they call it? The Respect for Marriage Act, which was like legalizing or like codifying gay marriage federally. But in general, very conservative, anti-immigration.
Well, yeah, and I know
stuff.
the North Carolina Republican Party was one of the first to really go in hard on trans stuff.
Yeah, the bathroom bill.
The bathroom bill. I think
that was the first major bathroom bill. I think.
Yeah,
but he recently released audio to the media of the death threats that he's been receiving on the phone at his office. And I thought that this was somewhat relevant to what we've been discussing, but it's also just fun. It's fun to hear what people are willing to call a senator and say on the phone. And this is heavily censored, so there's a lot of beeping. But actually, you know what? I'm going to share the video with you, Evan, because they do transcribe it as it plays. All right, so the News Observer, which I think is a North Carolina media, they released this audio here from Senator Tom Tillis. By the way, he spells it Thom, Thom Tillis. Mm-hmm. It's kind of stupid. I mean, I know that Thomas has an H in it, but Tom is always Tom. Like, what are you doing? You trying to be special?
Well, Tom York.
I guess that's true. He's
the only
really
other one I can
Radiohead,
think of.
probably.
Yeah, he was named after Tom York. Or Tom York was named after him, actually.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Senator Tillis'
That's
office.
how northern warbeck think about you southern white trash. That's what the ones who won the Civil War think about you. Do you understand that inferior bad genes, inbred stupid you and all your people?
Yeah.
Okay. So
Yeah.
that was it rapidly goes to the next call. That's a different person, but
yeah.
That was like a Yankee really going in on him for being a Southerner. So
Yeah.
I, always gotta applaud that.
Was he using the F slur for gay people? I couldn't tell.
Yeah, it shows in the transcript just F and then a bunch of asterisks.
Yeah.
Like obviously some of those are fucking.
It
Like
could have
that's
been
how it would fit,
fucker.
but-
Could have been fucker.
Yeah, I saw an MF in there.
Yeah.
It's possible he was saying the gay slur too.
I don't know. I didn't get that from that, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's when they're bleeping it out and it's F and then It's like crossword.
Yeah,
we're doing a lot of crossword puzzles lately. It's like word
Does that word
starts
come
with
up
an
a lot
F.
in crossword puzzles?
No, it does not. Neither fucker nor the other one. But yeah, this one, you and all your F blank 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 people. Yeah, I don't know. Fucker doesn't fit there.
It is enough asterisks for fucking.
Oh, okay. True.
Yeah. Assuming that they're, doing the correct number of asterisks, which is a funny detail to like adhere to.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, here's the next one.
People.
Yeah, Tom Tillis. Afraid of death threats. Then get the out of off.
And that's not
that
even...
That was not a threat. That wasn't a threat at all.
It's not. Well, actually, neither was the first one, was it? I don't think he said anything threatening.
No,
he was just he was swearing and yelling a lot.
Yeah.
Like, I guess I'll play some more of these, but like, you're allowed to say that stuff that we just heard, right? There's no crime. No crime has been committed here, even if you're stretching the definition of these crimes.
Yeah. I mean, generally, yeah. I mean, last guy, has a point, I think, basically that if people are making death threats against you, then you probably fucked up. You probably did something pretty fucked up, and maybe you should, not be in public anymore.
Sure. Yeah.
Or, just not as a public official.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to talk to Tom Tillis.
This guy sounds a lot like Bill from King of the Hill. I'm going to start him over here.
I would like to talk to Tom Tillis and ask him why he thinks it's okay for him to take money from this nation and it over. Why does he think that he can tell his employers to go themselves every goddamn day, all day long, and sell his goddamn nation out and his employers over? Don't he know that his employers can take a axe handle and cave his head in? And I think
okay, that one's probably crossing the line into death threat, right?
Yeah. Well, he was just telling him what might happen.
Yeah. Don't you know that this could happen to you? It's a friendly warning.
Right. Yeah. And I guess I shouldn't say that, you can get death threats for doing something good too. So I wanted to clarify that, but
sure. Yeah. I'll have more thoughts once we listen to a couple more of these.
Okay.
And I suggest, you're going to have to be very careful about going out in public or talking to anybody that's real, that's an actual American, because we hate you.
Again, I don't think that's a threat.
No.
Exactly.
No. That's just telling how it is. A lot of people hate you, bud.
If you
go out in public, there's going to be a fair percentage of people that you see that are going to hate you.
Yeah, it's
and
legal.
You just need to be aware of that. You need to be aware of that.
If anything, it's like, if you weren't aware of this, you need to be careful.
Yeah. These people are trying to help you.
Is it a threat if you tell a woman, it's probably not a good idea for you to walk down this dark alley, in the middle of the night? Is that a threat? It's not your fault if something happens to you, but it's not a threat to tell somebody to be careful, Mm-hmm. In this case, maybe it would be his fault if something happened to him. But.
We hate you.
If I didn't have a broken back in Southern California, I would spend the rest of my life in federal prison for a chance to cut your throat.
Okay, that last one, that was the only one where I would say, that was
You probably can't get away with that one.
That one was actionable, I think.
Well, although,
okay, give him some benefit of the doubt here.
He did basically make it clear that, I'm physically incapable of doing this.
Yeah, true.
If I could, I would do this.
Yeah.
But I can't. So I how do I feel about free speech? I'm not really a free speech absolutist because I don't think in practice, it's ever going to be, even and fair across the board that everyone can say whatever they want,
Yeah. I think in principle, though, it's a good thing.
Yeah, I think that
I'm not
free
afraid to
speech
say
is
that.
generally good.
Yeah. I'm not afraid to say that because free speech.
I just think in practice, like somebody can have a prison sentence hanging over their head for tweeting about a cop, so obviously things are not exactly on an even playing field.
Yeah, and you're right. Like a lot of like I'd say most of the time when people talk about free speech, it's like in bad faith to further whatever.
I should be allowed to say that slavery was good and should come back. And it's like, well, yeah, like legally you are allowed to say that, but it's like you shouldn't. You shouldn't think that. And
a lot of people
should take action against you if you're advocating that,
Yeah, a lot of that's what conservatives always like. Yeah, it's like free speech is like the government can't persecute you for what you say, but other people can take offense to it and think that you're a fucking asshole.
Yeah. So I guess maybe the theme of this whole episode is like people in positions that have a lot of power and connections to other powerful people. They pretty much get away with doing whatever they want. Damn the consequences to everybody else. Like, people end up in jail because Ian Mallory has a video of them walking through a crosswalk too many times. People fucking like lose their health care and their social security and shit because of votes that senators make. And you're not allowed to do anything back to them. Like, I guess this is like we said something about like monopoly on violence. We said something about that, I think, on the last Caucus episode. But like, the institution's allowed to do whatever that has negative impacts on you, often violent consequences for you, the citizen, and it's against the law for you to retaliate in any way because well, who makes the law? Who upholds the law?
And we can't not talk about Mahmoud Khalil.
That absolutely
is the biggest violation of the First Amendment that we've probably ever seen in our lifetimes. Like, it's absolutely fucking insane that this man who did, by all accounts, no crimes is being like extraordinarily rendered to a fucking facility, quote unquote.
And you say by all accounts.
Yeah.
By all accounts, including the people who abducted him, say that this is not because he committed a crime.
It's absolutely fucking insane.
They're not even accusing him of a crime.
Right.
They just took him away from his family.
Yeah, national security.
Well, if he's a threat to national security, you should probably have evidence of that. Like, just... I don't think anybody is under any delusions about why they did that, right? But yeah, that's another thing where it's like, if they can do that to him just for saying things and advocating for an end to a genocide of his own people, right? And he has legal status in the country. They're using very murky immigration justifications for this, but they can do whatever the fuck they want, and we're not allowed to do anything in reaction legally, right? Well, and here I think is why all those people were so mad that they called Senator Tom Tillis's office and told him they wanted to cut his throat. Tillis told Secretary of Defense nominee Pete Hegseth's ex-sister-in-law that if she signed a sworn statement attesting to her ex-brother-in-law's alcohol use and domestic abuse, Tillis might vote against confirming him. She gave sworn testimony to that effect, but Tillis voted to confirm Hegseth anyway. According to anonymous sources in the New York Times, Tillis changed his vote when President Trump threatened to support a primary challenge against him. So, just a recent example. I mean, just think about the potential consequences to that woman's life. That he, like, baited her into making this, like, sworn testimony to the U.S. Senate. Everyone can see what she said. Very powerful people who have an incentive to silence her.
Right.
How much she exposed herself. And this guy was like, I don't care.
Yeah, like, I changed my mind. Like, sorry, I'm going to vote for him anyway.
And just regular ass people aren't allowed to tell him what they think about him. We're not allowed to hate him.
Yeah. Call your senators, call your representatives.
Yeah, we're always being told to do that. They never listen to us. Obviously, the rhetoric's going to accelerate. If they're not listening to a nice call that I give to them, what if I up the ante a little bit?
Yeah.
And yeah, most of those calls that he released, like, weren't threats. Like the guy who sounded like Bill Dauterive, like, what did he say? He said, like, oh, I guess he did say the thing about the axe handle. That's probably where it maybe crossed the line. But yeah, what was I saying about free speech? Okay, I don't think I'm really a free speech absolutist, only because it's, like, in practice, impossible, given the oppressive state that we are subjected to. But I can only really argue from, like, a moral perspective, I guess. I have no impact on what the law is, right? I do think, at least morally, I think human beings should have the right to say whatever they want about, like, somebody with as much power as a U.S. senator. Like, you should be allowed to talk freely about what you would want to do to him. Right? Like, you know, maybe I shouldn't go as far as to say that it should be illegal to take actions based on the words that you say, but, like, they've got protection, you know, like, nothing's going to happen to Tom Tillis because somebody called his office. And as he released this audio, he said, like, if we identify any of you, I will be pressing charges. So he's making threats back, right? Legal threats. Oh, I forgot. In the News Observer, he was quoted. He said, Tillis recently told reporters that he's so used to threats, it's like, quote, going to 7-Eleven and getting a gallon of milk. I'm sorry, what?
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm sure. You must be really taking them very seriously then. Like, if it's just like going to the grocery store and going to 7-Eleven and getting a gallon of milk?
Right.
Yeah, aren't you getting like a fucking Slurpee at 7-Eleven, a gallon of milk?
Yeah, this is where you get your milk?
I don't think I've seen a gallon of milk at a gas station. That might be a half gallon.
Yeah.
A gallon is that's a lot of milk, brother.
It's a lot of shelf space. They probably charge you like $10 for a gallon of milk at a gas station.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
interesting consumer choices
me.
there. Yeah, no, yeah, it's a good quote.
All right. Obviously, there's been a lot of news that we're not really covering right now. I should mention this because I did talk to somebody about this. Caucus, which is the graduate student union at the University of Iowa, they released a press release yesterday, about the university sort of like suddenly changing their contracts. And I did talk to one of their people about mentioning this on the show, so I should mention it. So I'm reading from the press release here. The University of Iowa recently issued a statement to directors of graduate studies indicating the university is rescinding contracts to all graduate students, guaranteeing their meager stipend. Instead, the university advised that funding for graduate students, current and recently accepted, will include disclaimers in updated contracts that funding is dependent on availability and not guaranteed. Now, this is a union releasing this statement. You have to negotiate contracts with the union as the employer, right? So you can't just say like, oh, the contract's going to say this now, you know?
Right.
You can't just dictate the terms in the middle of like a contract. While the university claims this is not a sign that employment contracts are not being honored, it's hard to see how this isn't a breach of contract. Caucus is exploring all available options for recourse, including legal options that force the university to honor its contracts. Without guarantees of funding, graduate research and teaching is simply untenable. Obviously, a lot of the reason for this is the absolute chaos that all federal funding is being subjected to right now. So I guess, how do we frame this? Federal funding is up in the air. So the school, rather than demanding that the federal government meet its obligations and fulfill its promises. Rather than that, they are throwing the worst paid, least powerful members of their institution totally under the bus.
Yeah.
Because
well, they're not
easier.
gonna.
It's
they're not
easier
gonna,
to just.
They're not gonna like cut administrators' salaries or anything. They're not gonna cut. Well, they did just fire Fran McCaffrey.
That's true. A lot of money just opened up.
That's a lot. Yeah.
Vital research on cancer treatments, for example, has already been negatively impacted because of federal, state, and Board of Regents implemented changes. Graduate workers depend on the small stipend offered by the university to complete multi-year projects. I will say I was a graduate student, around 12 years ago. I think I was living off of a stipend of like $800 a month.
Wow.
I think that they are being paid a bit more now, but that's the standard is, some of those positions do not pay very well. And even that is now sort of in question, not guaranteed. The recent decision to rescind contracts means the university will no longer be able to function as it once was. That's an important aspect of this, of course, is that these people who are being thrown to the wolves actually do a lot of the work that this institution relies on. And so if you can't even guarantee what little you were already paying them, this whole thing is going to collapse. Like, the work's not going to get done, and there are going to be consequences, from the bottom up because of that. Like, I don't know. Higher education is not in a good position right now.
No.
I got a follow-up from Carrie with Cogs, who said, so beyond the contract, what needs to be known as just a fact of how things have run at the university, many departments, especially the hard sciences, have already been on a year-to-year contract schedule because of the contingency of federal funding. Now, when I was there, I think I was guaranteed a position for the full 2 years that I was planning on being there. Like, they sort of promised that at the beginning. Here, it's year-to-year, so it's like, if the funding goes away and you're partway through getting a degree, like, what do? You just have to leave, I guess, or wait until they offer you another job. I don't know. Now that the funding is in jeopardy, the university is putting all remaining departments on that structure in order to make cash flow. And Carey here has a contract in the English department. He says, I was given assurance when I was admitted that I would receive 7 years funding to do my graduate work. So the university would have earmarked about $140,000 for that 7-year stretch. You do the math, that's $20,000 a year for this job, this position. So $140,000 that would remain static in the university's budget year to year for the duration of 7 years. So now that they're going year by year, they only have to assure people in his position $23,000 a year and can move the remainder of what would have been earmarked to other areas. So they don't have money. Well, they do, but they,
right.
they have, their priorities are, the administration and probably hospital executives and sports. Those are probably like the top three. Sports, of course, brings in its own revenue. So there is that aspect. But, the big question here from Carrie, what happens when funding is cut from a grad student or department? Are they expected to pay their tuition for the next semester themselves? That's a part of the COGS contract, is if you have a position, you get tuition remission. You don't have to pay tuition if you have like a TA or something. So if you don't have the TA, you're suddenly on the hook, right? In reality, most of us are living paycheck to paycheck, of course, with no savings. How far in advance are we going to know if our funding is cut? Also a big question. So just a glimpse at how chaotic things are looking for people who rely on institutional funding right now. It's a very widespread problem, but that's just like a little piece of it. Grad students at the University of Iowa. Obviously not even the only school suffering because of the uncertainty. I've seen, I think very prominently, there are some Iowa State, or people had been offered a place in the graduate program at Iowa State and had that offer rescinded, which is like, I think that's like unprecedented. Like, I don't think that happens.
Yeah.
Before now.
That's fucked.
So school is maybe no longer going to exist next year. I don't know. And I plan on talking about that more on a later episode, but we can keep that under wraps until we've made our plans. We're in the planning stages, me and Evan.
Yeah, mostly Justin.
Don't want to reveal too much.
Yeah, keep your cards close to your chest.
I do have a few things that I can reveal the details of right now. I mentioned this before, but there's a fundraiser for the Iowa Trans Mutual Aid Fund, a fundraiser concert, a rock music show at Trumpet Blossom Cafe in Iowa City on March 29th. So about 2 weeks from now, it's a Saturday, March 29th. The band's Early Girl, Miss Christine, What Resembles Us will be playing. I will be there running sound, so you can give me a high five and bother me while I'm trying to work, if you like. Another fundraiser show on the horizon that I have agreed to perform at. This will be on April 12th at Close House, Public Space 1. I'm playing a solo set. We got Hadiza, Young Rascal, Beetho, and Peak Dead. All people I've worked with before who all do very interesting work. Hadiza threw this together. I put this together. Threw this together sounds like it was like slapdash and stuff, but it's I didn't mean to denigrate Hadiza's work here. She's part of the band Kaleidoscope, and I've been doing shows with her for a long time. Big fan of her. She's putting together this fundraiser for a family who is Sudanese. They're from Sudan. Right now, they have members of their family who have had to flee Sudan because things are, not safe there. Currently living as refugees in Egypt, and they are trying to bring them here to Iowa. And they're trying to raise some money to make that happen. There are obviously legal hurdles to that right now, given the current actions of our federal government. So trying to raise the money, trying to hopefully get them over here. But, it's a good thing to do, and I'm glad that I can be a part of it. April 12th, Public Space 1, Close House. Come help a family in need, bring their family members to safety. Oh, yeah, Oliver's getting sworn in a couple days. So if you're in Iowa City, you want to come witness history being made. An anarchist in City Hall. Oliver Weiland swearing in, Iowa City Hall, March 18th, 7 p.m. That's this coming Tuesday. And a thing that we cannot reveal all the details of yet, but I think we're getting close. I'll just say hold May 7th on your calendars, Rock Hard Caucus listeners. May 7th. There may be an event occurring that you would like to attend on May 7th, the evening of May 7th. It will be, if it happens, it'll be in Iowa City.
Yeah. I believe that's a Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday evening.
May 7th, Iowa City. Something that would be of interest to Rock Hard Caucus listeners might be happening. If you want to speculate about what we're talking about so mysteriously, you can call us at 319-849-8733 and guess what we're talking about. Your voicemails may appear on a future episode of Rock Hard Call Us, which you can access at patreon.com/rockhardcaucus. $1 a month gets you new episodes of Rock Hard Call Us and a whole bunch of other stuff. Woo. Plugs are over. Time for closing music. I selected a track by Bird Labs, my friend Isaac, who is a DJ at KRUI, among other things. He released a big old album on Bandcamp recently called Borflan's Archives 2014 to 2024, Useless, Ugly, and Unlistenable. And it's like, I forget how long exactly it is, but it's like at least 2+ hours of music. And it's all like really strange. Well, it's not all strange, but he's getting into weird experimental areas. And I found it very interesting. The track I'm playing is called Fuck Hell for Real. Heavy in parentheses.
Yeah, that's an awesome track name. I'm sure it's a banger. Definitely
You're about to hear it, people.
Piques my interest. That's like an important thing for an artist. You gotta pique people's interest by calling your song Fuck Hell for Real, heavy in parentheses.
You can find it for yourself at birdlabs.bandcamp.com. And if you make music and you listen to the show and you would like the other listeners to hear your music, check out our website, rockhardcock.us, and there's a link at the top where you can send me your music. The end. Here's Fuck Hell for Real. Heavy.
Also, Fuck Hell for Real.
Yeah.
Not real. It's fake. There's no such thing as hell.